What's up, movie fam? It's Jen and Rob, and we're back talking more American Horror Story, Season 9, Episode 2,
Yep.
Mr. Jingles.
Yep. And it basically, darkness descends upon the camp. Although it's lights out, evil has no curfew.
And this episode, it was just really kind of all over the place. It really had my mind going, what just happened? What's going on? At the beginning of the episode, we see the psychiatric counselor coming to warn them that Mr. Jingles is out, and that she shut down the camp, and obviously Margaret's not shutting down the camp. And I thought that she died rather quickly. They kind of killed her off. I mean, she kind of just backed off really quickly, ran. I mean, she wasn't really assertive. But it looks like in the previews, she's going to have more of a backstory with Mr. Jingle and his psychiatric and his character.
Next episode, it looks like. I know one thing that we kind of expected to hear more of Brooke's backstory. Not quite what we saw. Obviously, that was pretty extreme. But now we know why she's there and why she moved to a new place, understandably.
Yeah. I thought that she had been previously engaged before because of the ring, and they had put emphasis on it on the first episode, but I wasn't expecting all that to happen at the altar. I would think that her best friend, her father, and her husband-to-be all died.
Yeah.
That's pretty traumatic.
Right in front of her.
Right in front of her.
On her wedding day.
On her wedding day.
Yeah.
So that was unexpected to see, but that gives us an insight more into her, which I'm still not really reading her yet. She seems scared, but then she's kind of tough when she needs to be.
She's always, I need some air, and she goes outside by herself. She's always leaving and going alone to different places, which is surprising based on her past and the way she kind of presents herself.
And how fearful she is, yeah.
She's scared to sleep alone at night, but yet she'll go outside in the middle of the dark knowing that there's somebody out there to get her.
Yeah. And then we've seen the Night Stalker and Mr. Jingles this episode, and they kind of got their own different storylines going. So the Night Stalker found her at the camp, followed her, and he tried to kill her. And then
he probably would have if it hadn't been for ghosts.
Yeah, we find out that the 1970s counselor, the guy that they hit with the van, is a ghost.
Yeah, I think it's very unexpected, but yet not surprising, I guess. This is American Horror Story. I don't think anybody that the reviews that we looked at showed anybody guessing that there was going to be ghosts involved.
No ghosts. We thought maybe time traveling.
Right.
I guess ghost in a way is time traveling.
It could be,
And he seemed to not know that he was a ghost. And then he gives him his rendition of what happened to him. And it makes me take back that I no longer think that Margaret and Mr. Jingles
we're planning it together.
Yeah, something together. I now think that Margaret did all the original killings.
And was possibly framing Mr. Jingles.
And framed Mr. Jingles, and then he went to jail. He went to the psychiatric hospital, and I think that psychiatrist kind of put that into his mind that he did this, make him think that he's a bad guy. I mean, obviously he was in the war and he liked to take ears and make necklaces, and that's how she helped frame that it was him. But I think that made him snap, and I think he's back and killing people for revenge.
Revenge, yeah. He's out to get Margaret.
Like, he wasn't maybe such a monster to begin with, but Margaret kind of turned him into one by framing him.
Yeah. And in the flashback that the hiker had, he said, he looked up and he saw Margaret there, and she was standing there. She had dark hair, she had blood all over her, and she looked to be the killer.
She did.
Basically, in there. And then it showed, him flashing a little bit forward to running out into the road and getting hit by the truck, which was Mr. Jingles.
Mr. Jingles. But
Mr. Jingles, yeah,
Margaret,
we don't know for sure because he just heard the keys.
Yeah, she was really like, oh, you saw Mr. Jingles in the truck? And he was like, well, I heard his keys. So it raised suspicion there.
There's something definitely going on.
Yeah,
with that.
and the whole tone of the flashback for him was completely different to the tone that Margaret had given us. Even the color was different. Her hair was darker, and in her flashback, it was blonde. So that makes me think that she's the one behind this.
Yeah.
Why?
I don't know. We got a little bit of insight based on the conversation that she had when she came back to her room or her cabin, and the Night Stalker was sitting there. Wanted to have a conversation with her about the hiker who he had to kill twice. Because he didn't die. And she sat him down and gave him something to drink, and basically had a heart-to-heart with this guy about why it was okay to do what he was doing, as long as he felt that what he was doing was for God, that he could be excused from any wrongdoing, or make sure that, it was okay that he could do all that, which lets you know a little bit of insight into Margaret too, that she's manipulative and crazy, and I think she's out for some revenge too for some reason.
Yeah, the only thing that I can think of at this point is you see in episode 1 those counselors engaging in some touching, and she's maybe didn't like the sin. She wants pure, she wants godly things, and maybe that's what made her snap. Is just the unholy things that she was seeing.
But it seems like she's trying to bring Mr. Jingles back to get her revenge on him, which is throwing me off a little bit, because she was trying to draw him there, it seemed like.
What made you think she was trying to draw him in?
Well, I think it was from the first episode, where I can't remember the exact conversation that happened, but she seemed like she was welcoming him, or she was okay with him coming back to camp. Even though she was telling the Night Stalker that you need to go after Mr. Jingles and don't kill anybody else. We need to get rid of Mr. Jingles.
I don't think that was the case. I didn't get that.
Yeah.
No, I didn't get anything. I don't remember anything about her saying, kind of welcoming back to camp. I mean, this is the first episode where we realize that he really is at camp, and that he's escaped. I think that she's worried about him exposing her. That's what I think.
And then, I mean, there really wasn't a whole lot more to it. It was just a lot of action, and what seemed to be a short amount of time. This episode went by a lot quicker than the first episode.
Yeah, just more flashes of things happening here and there, people running.
Some backstories coming out, with Xavier. He was definitely not the person that we expected.
Yeah.
From our original theories, I guess. A lot of those have been busted already in episode 2.
Episode 2.
Yeah, which is no stranger to American Horror Story, I guess.
Yeah. I always like to try and figure it out, but it really threw me for a loop the second episode. Yeah. Really kind of broke down my theories rather quickly with one swoop blow.
Yeah.
But so yeah, it's leaving me with more questions than answers, really.
A lot more questions than answers on this one, definitely.
Yeah, what's going to happen? Who's really involved? Who's the two people knocking on the door? I can't imagine that they're both the Night Stalker and Mr. Jingles.
Mr. Jingles, yeah.
But the Night Stalker was told not to kill anybody. Is he really going to honor that? I mean, he really seemed to have a thing with Margaret.
Another thing, too, is you didn't see Chef Birdie at all in this episode.
No, they didn't mention her, but you don't see her. So is she involved? What's going on? Where is she?
Yeah, I definitely think she has a very important place in this season, and there's going to be a lot more light shed on her story.
Yeah. I mean, maybe she saw Margaret do it back then, or maybe she helped Margaret do it. Who knows?
It's hard to say, yeah.
Yeah. It's weird that we didn't see her. It was just a very weird episode.
It was not what I had anticipated for episode 2.
Yeah, and it didn't really solve anything. It just created more questions, thicker plots.
Some possible link, the Night Stalker's cousin, who was there when he was a child, was also in Vietnam.
Oh, that's true.
And Mr.
he was
Jingles
killing the women.
Was in Vietnam and they were both doing stuff over there that they probably shouldn't have been doing.
What if it is the Night Stalker's cousin, uncle?
You think it's the Night Stalker's cousin, maybe?
I don't know, maybe.
He didn't look like that, but he's a lot older now.
Yeah.
So it's hard to say for sure, but there's got to be a link there. They wouldn't mention two different characters that you would never think would be together, both come from Vietnam.
Right.
That's odd.
Yeah, and he said his cousin, he shot his aunt.
Yeah.
And he showed him pictures of all the women that he killed.
Mm-hmm.
And they said that's one things that Mr. Jingles was, that he killed and cut off people's ears over there.
Yeah, he saved trophies, and so did Night Stalker's cousin.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good observation that I didn't think of. Yeah. Definitely have to look out for that.
Yeah, I'm sure that'll come back. It's got to, just because it's so. Usually, when American Horror Story puts those little things together, there's something there.
Right.
All right, I think that's it for this episode. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. We definitely want to hear your new theories, since all of ours have been busted, or most of them anyway. We've come up with a couple new ones, but for the most part, it took a wild turn in episode 2.
VHS 1984, Wednesdays at 10.